The files created in this video are available to download for free. The link is in the description. In my last video, I created a pattern with rhombuses and alternating broken stripes. In this video, I'm going to go one up on that video and make a pattern with concentric rhombuses and alternating stripes. So let's get started. Go to File, Document Properties, set the display units to pixels, and uncheck Show Page Border. Close Document Properties, and then the first step, let's come to create rectangles and squares, or keyboard shortcut the letter R. Press and hold the Control key and click and drag to create a square that is 1:1 ratio. The ratio will show at the bottom of your screen. Once you've created the square, come over to the Select and Transform Objects tool, and let's click the square a second time to reveal the rotation handles, which are these curved arrows at the corners. Then click on the curved arrow and drag it to rotate the square, and press the Control key to snap at 15-degree intervals, and we want to snap it at 45 degrees. Once it's snapped at 45 degrees, let's come over to Object, Fill and Stroke, and we want to make sure that it's got a flat color fill, and under Stroke Paint, we want it to be no paint. So we want it to have no stroke. Once we've set the fill and stroke, let's come over to the Select and Transform Width and Height properties. Click on the padlock to enable proportional scaling, and let's set the width to 500 pixels. So it will be 500 by 500 pixels. Next, let's duplicate this square, so press keyboard shortcut Control D to duplicate it, and then we want to set the width and height of the duplicate to 250 by 250, and press enter. And then I'm going to give the duplicate a white fill, so you can come down to your color palette and click on white. Then let's go to Object, Align and Distribute, and let's click and drag, while the smaller rhombus square, which is now a rhombus, is selected, let's shift and click on the bigger one to select both of them. Then on the Align and Distribute panel, let's make sure we've got last is set to relative to last selected. And then let's center them both vertically and horizontally. Then click on the side to deselect them both, and then let's come and click on the small square and press Ctrl D to duplicate it, and then shift and click on the large square again, and we want to subtract the small square from the large square so that the large square has a hole in it. So let's come over to Path and Difference, and you'll see that the small square has been subtracted from the large square. If I click and drag the large square, you'll see there's a hole in it. I'm going to press Ctrl Z to do that move, then click on the remaining small square, and let's give that a black fill. And let's also bring down the opacity so that we can see what we're working with. So I'm going to click and drag over both of these rhombuses. I'm not sure what the plural for rhombus is. It should be rhombuses. Click and drag over both of them to select them, and then come over to Fill and Stroke and bring down the opacity to about 50%. And then now we're going to come to the Create Rectangles and Squares tool, and we want to create a bar. So I'm going to click and drag and press the control key and then drag one, and you'll get it snapping at different proportions. Make sure that it snaps at a proportion that is at least 20 or over. So you want it to snap at a proportion that's at least 20 or over. We're now at 23 here. That should be okay. Then let's switch to the select and transform objects tool, and then come to the width and height of the bar that we've just created and set the width to 25 pixels. Once we've set the width, then let's, while the bar is selected, shift and click on the larger rhombus. Then we want to come to align and distribute. So let's open the align and distribute panel, and we want to align them. We want to align both the left edges to be the same, at the same level, like that, and center them on the horizontal axis like that. And then let's click on the side to deselect both of the shapes, then click on the bar and press Ctrl D to duplicate it, and then shift and click on the rhombus, the larger rhombus, and come over to align and distribute. And this time we want the left edge of the bar to be just touching the right corner of the rhombus from the outside. So let me just control and scroll up to zoom in. So in this case, the left edge is touching from the inside, but when I align here, it's going to be touching from the outside. So let's use align left edges of objects to right edge of anchor, like that. So in this case, it's touching from the outside. Alright, once we've done that, click on the side to deselect both objects, then click on the rectangle on the bar, and then shift and click on the second bar, and let's come to path, object to path, and doing that will enable us to come to extensions, generate from path, and interpolate. So if we don't do the object to path, we won't be able to interpolate. And what interpolation does, let me enable the live preview so you can see what it does. Let's enable the live preview, and it generates duplicates of the two objects that we've selected between them. So in this case, we've got exponent set to 0, interpolation steps set to 9, so there's 9 bars between these two, and interpolation set to 1. We don't have to worry too much about what that means, just make sure it's set to 1. And all these are unchecked except the live preview that we enabled so that we can see what we're looking at here. And then click apply, and when you click apply, the live preview will become unchecked. That means that your bars are now permanently created, so you can click close, and then click on the side to deselect everything, then click on the right bar and press the delete button to remove it. We don't need it anymore. We'll just be dealing with these new bars, so you can click on the new bars to select them, and shift and click on the original first bar and come to object, ungroup, and that's going to separate or break apart the bars that we created from the interpolation, and then come to path, union, and that will join these bars together with our first bar that we created. Once we've done that, press Ctrl D to duplicate the two sets of bars, and click and drag. Okay, first, before we click and drag, we want to make sure that we've got snapping enabled. So come over and enable snapping, enable snap nodes, paths and handles, and enable snap nodes including rectangle corners. If those three settings are on, then you're good to go. Let's come over and click and drag over the bars until they snap onto each other like that. So we'll have a kind of a rectangle shape with some tiny pinstripes. Don't mind those. And let's control and scroll up to zoom in slightly. Then I want to click on the rightmost bars and lower them to the bottom of the canvas. So click lower to bottom on the selector and transform toolbar there. And then let's click on the rightmost corner of the big rhombus. So if I control and zoom out, you'll see that the bounding box has the big rhombus selected, and shift and click on the bar of the outermost rhombus to select both of them, and we want to get the intersection of these two paths. So we want to get the place where they both intersect. So let's come over to path, intersection, or you can use the keyboard shortcut Control Star, which is what we're going to do in the next step. Let's click on the remaining bars and also lower them to the bottom of the selection, and then press Shift and click on the inner rhombus, and then we've got our bars and the smallest rhombus selected. Then let's press Control Shift Star to get their intersection, and this is where we get this shape here. And now we can click and drag over all of these or both of these objects and come to Path, Union to join them together. And then I guess now we can change the fill to a solid fill and bring up the opacity to 100% so that we can see more clearly. And let's zoom out. So I'm going to press Control and scroll down to zoom out, and Shift and scroll to pan to the side. And I'm going to duplicate this set of rhombuses with broken stripes. So this pair, Control D to duplicate them, click and drag the duplicate and snap it on by the side. We didn't need to snap it because first we need to flip it horizontally, and then now we can snap it to the corner of the first one. So let's just click on the side, so when they snap together they'll look like this. And I want to come and click on the left one, press Ctrl D to duplicate it, and click and drag the duplicate to the right side, and then the top one, press Ctrl D to duplicate it, click and drag and bring it to the bottom. And now we've almost got our first foundation tile. Next, let's create a rectangle. So come to the Create Rectangles and Squares tool, and we want the top left corner of the rectangle to be on the left corner of the top rhombus. So click and drag from here to the right corner of the bottom rhombus, and it should snap on like that. If we switch to the Select and Transform Objects tool, the width and height should be about 500, it should be exactly 500 by 500. Okay, so we've got this square. Here's what we do with it. I forgot to do a step previously, but let's just move on and let's see if we can fix that. Click and drag over everything, and then shift and click on the small new square that we've created to deselect it from the selection we've just created, and then we want to join all of our broken striped rhombuses together. So come to Path, Union, or Control Shift plus to join them together, and shift and click on the square again to select it again, and then we want to get the intersection of the square with the striped rhombuses, and go to Path, Intersection, or you can do Control Shift star, and you'll get this tile. And this is our basic tile for the pattern. So if I press Ctrl D to duplicate it, click and drag it to the side and snap it on there, and let's duplicate the pair of these. Ctrl D, and you can see, let's click and drag to select these. You can see the pattern starting to form. So that's basically how to create this pattern of rhombuses with broken stripes, and so we've got concentric rhombuses or rhombi. I should have looked up the plural for rhombus, but yeah, that's it. So there's several different variations that you can do with the same concept. In a future video I'll show a slideshow of different variations of these similar patterns to this. And remember, downloads to this file and the files from the previous videos are available for free. The link to the description, oops, sorry, I forgot to take away my phone while I was recording. And remember, the files created in this video are available to download for free. The link is in the description. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more, be sure to subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them below in the comments box, and I'll see you in the next video.